Okay, good evening. I'd like to call to order the October 17th, 2023 Village Board meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Marquardt?
Here.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Here.
Trustee Forster? Here. Trustee Schenk?
Here.
Trustee Takaoka?
Here.
Trustee Cook?
Here.
And President Byrne has given prior notice that he would be joining the meeting shortly.
We have a motion to appoint a temporary chair for this evening's meeting.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Cook to be the chairman pro tem for the duration of the meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Forster? Aye. Trustee Takaoka?
Aye.
Trustee Schenk?
Aye.
Trustee Marquardt?
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Cook?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. We are called to order, so would everyone please stand for the pledge? Okay. And as Roger reminded me last week, so I won't forget it this time, first thing is citizens wishing to address the board. Is there somebody here that wants to address the board on an issue not on the agenda? Okay. Then in that case, official reports. Village manager? Right? Are you up
Yes,
first?
that's me.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just waiting for my slide to load here. There we go. Okay, thank you. So each year, we're required under the Illinois Opens Meeting Act to publish a meeting schedule prior to the upcoming calendar year. We're going to be preparing to do that later this year. And before we did that, I just wanted to take a moment to share our proposed schedule for 2024 with the board to get any feedback. I wanted to note a couple of changes to the 2024 calendar. First, I'll start in January. We normally, as you know, meet on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. January 1st this year falls on a Monday. So in light of the holiday being the day before, we elected to, or proposing, to move the meeting to the second and fourth Tuesday of January. January does have 5 Tuesdays, so this will put us back on a normal cadence once we get to February. You'll also note that in March, on the 18th, we're proposing a Monday meeting. We have it is the primary election on Tuesday. So to avoid election night conflict, we're proposing to put that on a Monday. Back to normal schedule for April, May, June, and July. We have our past practice of one meeting in August on the 13th. Normal meeting schedule proposed for September and October. And then similar to March and November, we move the general election meeting to the previous Monday on November 4th. And then ending with December with our one meeting in December. So I just wanted to get any feedback from the board if this schedule looked okay. If it does, we will have this prepared for official vote at an upcoming meeting later this year.
I had a question, and this is just a personal thing. If there's no possibility, it's fine. I'm wondering if the January 23rd could be moved to Thursday the 25th, because I'm going to be out of town the first. I'll be back on the 24th. And that's not, no big deal if we can't.
That's fine with me. I was going to ask about the 9th, because I'll be out of town that week.
You're always out of town.
I'll be on vacation.
Well, the 9th I'll be missing for sure. I'll be,
Oh, you will?
I'll be in, yeah. I'm doing a LA to Fort Lauderdale cruise through the canal.
What about the first week? Like
we
on
could always keep it-
Thursday, could we do the 4th or
Yeah,
something, or the
we could
3rd?
always keep it the normal.
Could we do January 3rd? Is that
Yeah, I'm
when
not
you'll be
leaving
around?
till the 6th, so
Yeah, so am
Well,
I.
well, I will be out of town then, so,
on the 4th.
When are you going out of town?
over New Year's through the 6th,
Oh, through the 6th?
yeah.
Okay. Maybe move.
Like I said,
That works well for me. This works well for me. I can't do Craig's request. 23rd, that's up to you. I can work either way with that one.
What about 16 and 30? Does that work?
It's whatever, whatever the board prefers, so.
Well, the problem with 16 and 30 is it puts the February
Yeah, then it,
awfully tight.
right, then we're back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
You're leaving when then, Tom?
I leave the 6th, I'll be back the 24th.
You're saying you'd miss both of them in
Right,
January
right.
if we did this.
Right.
So,
Do something in between if you,
as of right now, I would imagine I'll be okay on the 24th, so I have no problem with that.
Who's not here on the 9th? Just Craig?
I mean, the 20,
Tom won't be here.
On the
and
9th.
You'll be
no,
here.
but he wants to switch it
Okay, Tom and
to the,
Craig will.
Yeah, so I was looking
the
to see
20
if the 25th is
to the 25th. that's
Thursday,
fine.
the 25th.
Yeah.
What do we
Is
we
that
need,
fine?
4 or 5 for a quorum?
Quorum would be 4.
So we're okay moving it Thursday, the 25th?
The 25th, that's fine with me.
Okay, thank you.
What,
I
so
appreciate
is it the 9th?
So January 9th and January 25th, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
And then the other months, any conflicts, or does that look okay as
No,
proposed?
those all look good.
Okay, thank you.
So, wait, may I ask about, so the 18th of March, so that, you said that's a
The 19th is
primary?
the
19th
primary
of
election.
But does that affect us at all?
No,
You know, what,
we wanted to avoid an election night.
Is this a polling place?
The Village Hall is a polling place, yes.
So it'll be a polling place until 7 o'clock on Tuesday.
and then we'll get people to show up, and after they vote, they can come join
Be
the
a
meeting.
budget presentation as well.
Right, exactly. So I mean, it doesn't really,
Yeah,
it doesn't really affect us. There's no municipal
No,
election
no.
then, so unless it affects you in some way,
Nope.
I mean, it makes sense when we're running or there's something more significant in the community, but I personally don't see it as being an issue. What do the rest of you think?
I'm fine either way on that
Keep
one,
it on the regular day?
fine, so. Good.
as long as we don't have problems with the, because the polling place closes at
It
7.
closes at 7, and that's on the other side of the
Yeah,
building,
the other,
so.
yeah, the other part of the building, yeah,
And I guess the only issue would just be parking, but,
yeah. No, I'm good with staying with that.
yeah.
Okay, so then we'll keep March and November on the first Tuesday, or, excuse me,
Well-
March on the third Tuesday and November on the first Tuesday. The normal schedule.
Yes.
Same thing with the national election in November,
No, well,
or do you want to leave that one on the Monday?
that one makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
that one makes sense to switch to the Monday. I'm just saying the
Oh,
prime,
just for March, okay.
I'm just saying just for March, it doesn't,
Well, yeah, because the primary doesn't get the kind of turnout.
right. It's very limited, and we're not going to be up all night watching the primary results, so, after our meeting, so.
Okay, so the two changes to what we're looking at here are January 25th
And March.
and March 19th.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, is that all you've got then tonight? Okay, then Assistant Village Manager? You want to go now, or you want to? You want to do it in? Okay, all right, okay. Does anybody else have a speaking part then? We're going to do all the rest of that stuff under communications?
I have a speaking part. Yep.
Yeah.
Director, okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to run through the fiscal '23 financial results for the village. So we'll cover the budget versus actual information, as well as the current year versus prior year information, and then I'll turn it over. We'll conclude with the audit presentation. The final reports will be provided to the board once the audit is issued. In the coming days, I'll provide a fiscal '23 budget versus actual report, the actual audit report, as well as any required auditor communications to the board. Jumping off in revenues here, the table shows the village's revenues by fund. We have historical activity in fiscal '21 and '22 in the first two columns, followed by the actual 23 revenues in the green box, and as well as the budget for fiscal '23. At the bottom of the green box, the village finished the year at $51.6 million in revenues. That's a 15% increase over the prior year actual, and a 16% increase over the planned budget. Finished the year with a $7.1 million in excess revenues over budget. Breaking that down a little bit further, these three revenue sources here are all related to sales activity in the village: the sales tax, home rule sales tax, and the food and beverage taxes. And if you look in the green box there, $25.2 million in revenue is actual versus the budget of 21.4. That's a 9% increase over the prior year and an 18% increase over the budget. To look at the sales activity in the village a little bit closer, here's basically the last 3 decades of sales growth over time. As you can see on the far left is calendar year '22, finishing up with just under $2 billion in sales in the village, resulting in the highest sales tax generated for the village on record. Other significant revenues that differed from budget: income taxes, again with a strong economy, wages continue to increase, resulting in further income taxes for the year. The grants was up $1.8 million over budget. This is because we recognize 100% of the ARPA grant, which is $3.6 million during the year. The interest income increased $1.7 million. Again, interest rates continue to increase tenfold during the fiscal year, as well as cash balances and investment balances that earns the interest. Construction permits kind of offset some of the income, the overages there. We had planned $1.7 million of construction-related permits, and the actual came in about $500,000. Now, this is substantially due to the American Hotel Register redevelopment project that did not go forward. Moving on to expenditures. Again, these are the village funds by showing expenditures by fund. In the green box at the bottom, finished the year at $38.4 million. It's an increase of 4% over the prior year actual, and we're at about 92% of the budget. So overall, the village was under budget in expenditures by about $3.1 million. And looking at some highlights of those differences includes economic incentive payments. So we have a few sales tax rebate payments in which we work with a few businesses in town to provide them a portion of their sales back. And so we spent about $1.4 million over budget. Again, this is all related to the same sales tax base that we talked about in the revenue side of things. So when that goes up, we have higher payouts here. Capital outlay goes the other way. We spent 2.7 less. This is many things, but a few of the larger items. Some of the Lakeview Parkway expansion project did not take place in fiscal '23 and is deferred to fiscal '24. That was planned during the year. The boiler replacement in the PD was deferred also to fiscal '24, among other projects that were deferred. Focusing on the bottom section of this page, I put the personnel costs in here. So we finished the year at $17.3 million for personnel costs, which is just under budget by about $300,000, and a 2% increase from the prior year. Finishing up with the general fund balance review in the orange box in the middle, you'll see the general fund finished the year with a fund balance of $45.4 million. It's a $10.2 million increase over the beginning fund balance and an $8.3 million increase over planned budgeted fund balance. Looking at the fund balance as a percent of expenditures, as we usually do, the general fund has 150% coverage. And again, it's not uncommon for municipalities that do not levy a property tax to have a higher fund balance, so that way we can deal with the volatility of the economy when it does ebb and flow. And before I turn it over for the audit presentation, just want to make sure, see if there's any questions at this time.
Can you go back one slide? That points out, because sometimes I've had people ask me how we're done with '23, that our fiscal year shows here the ends April 30th is what we consider the end of the year. So It's not like we're talking about ending the year when we're still only in October, so.
Oh, right. Yeah, the audit's definitely lagged, we're
Well, and the other thing about the fund balance, excuse me, if we were to have to pass a property tax to make up for something, there's a lag time of up to 16 months before we get any of the funds, correct?
Yeah, it's a process, several months for sure.
So the 150% traditionally over the last like several years, what was it, would you say?
So we use this metric at the time of budgeting, really when we are planning our expenses and our final fund balance. If I recall properly, or if I remember correctly, in March, we had fiscal '24, it was in the 140s, 140% range. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Ed Tracy from Selden Fox. He's going to present the audit results.
Thanks, Thomas. Thomas did a really nice job of summarizing the financial results for the year, so I was just going to kind of cover the process itself. I thought the audit went very smoothly this year. Thomas and his team, starting out new, fresh with each other. I thought he did a really good job getting things prepared for us, ready for us, so when we came out, we were ready to hit the ground running and get our work done in a timely manner. The number of adjustments we made were down significantly from the prior years. We made very few entries. Management provided a few entries throughout the course of the audit, identifying some things as we went along, but the number of adjustments we initiated were almost none on the fund financial statements, and just a few related to the long-term pension and OPEB liabilities and the government-wide statements, which is something that we do every year because a lot of the information doesn't come in till later, so it's hard to get those done ahead of time. We do take a look at internal controls when we do the audit, walk through transactions, review the control structure. We did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that would need to be brought to your attention in a management letter, so we did not have any of those this year. Found the controls to be operating effectively and in place, operating effectively and as designed. The village does require a single audit this year. That'll be issued under a separate document. There will not be any findings as it relates to a single audit. A single audit is required when you expend more than $750,000 of federal funding, and this relates to the ARPA money. So there's certain compliance requirements we have to test as part of a single audit, and focusing on the major program, which is the ARPA, and we did not have any exceptions in our testing of that. The village did adopt a new standard related to leases in the current year, and that includes it affects both when you're a lessee and a lessor. So the village recognized a lease receivable and an offsetting deferred inflow of resources, so it's really a balance sheet transaction related to the lease agreements for the wireless carriers on the 4 cell towers. That was approximately a $4 million receivable and deferred inflow of resources. The pension funds, as a percent funded, we're down a little bit in the current year. IMRF had previously been overfunded, and at the end of this year it was about 90% funded, and that's what every IMRF member is seeing. It's primarily related to the unrealized losses on investments held at IMRF, because the liabilities basis is a comparison of the future benefits that have been earned to date, projected future benefits versus the assets on hand. And so the value of the assets on hand, which is at market value, dropped in 2022, and it's based on a calendar year. So the pension asset turned into a pension liability, but it's still 90% funded, so it's still strong. Police pension fund was down from about 73% funded to 68% funded, and that was mainly due to some changes, differences in actuarial projections versus actual experience, but still generally in a pretty strong position. The report will be submitted for the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, which you received last year, and I fully expect you'll receive again this year. So if there's any questions about the audit itself, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the board about the audit? No? Okay. Yeah.
Were there any deficiencies from the prior year that, did you look back at that to see if there was anything that needed to be corrected that was corrected?
I don't know if we necessarily had like what would be considered a significant deficiency or material weakness last year, but I will say that there were fewer adjustments made this year for sure. Last year, there were more adjustments required as part of our audit process, and this year, that was down significantly, so, that was a very encouraging sign. We're very happy to see that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You look like you want to say something.
Yes, I was going to give an update on
Okay.
The Lake County Quiet Zone. So as many of you know already, one of our two quiet zones within this community, known as the Lake County Quiet Zone, even though it's not the only one in Lake County. It's our north-south line that runs along the Metra line, CN and Metra. There are crossings around the Vernon Hills area, just immediately west of Butterfield on 60, then on Butterfield just south of that, and then right over here at 45. A couple years ago, there were changes to the Federal Railway crossing regulations that required inspections along the quiet zone. So there's 59 crossings across 10 communities. Those inspections found a couple of deficiencies that were issued out. Vernon Hills was able to correct all of the deficiencies within our community pretty quickly. Ours were fairly minor. But the other communities, there were still a couple of deficiencies that remained up through the deadline of when everything had to be complete. So as of last week, this north-south quiet zone was temporarily suspended, which means that train horns are now able to blow at the crossings. Buffalo Grove is the lead agency on this quiet zone. And so all the information that they've given us is that, or what we know at this point is every community has all of their work that needs to be done under contract. They have contractors ready to get started. They're expecting to have everything complete by November 30th. We've also been reaching out to some of our reps, our U.S. representatives, to get some more information, and the FRA, which is the Federal Railway Administration, and they have given us some assurances that they have local quiet zone inspectors that as soon as everything's complete, we will be able to reach out to them, and they'll be very prompt in their inspections. So after all that work's complete, we're hopeful that the quiet zone will then be reinstated as soon as possible. So I would be happy to answer any more questions or go into any other detail if you have any.
Yeah, I'm happy you're addressing this because, and also it was good to see the Daily Herald, Mick Swislak covered it today in the paper because we've had so many years of quiet zone here that all of a sudden with all the train horns lately, people have been, questioning what's new. So, so hopefully this will be a very, very short term. Any other comments or questions on the board on this? Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything? No? Or do we move on to the omnibus? Okay, then next item is omnibus vote agenda. Is there a motion to approve items A through G?
So made.
Second.
Motion is second. Any comments or questions about any of the items?
I just have a quick question about E, the LED streetlights. I'm just curious, what percentage of our lighting is switched over so far to LED, or what's remaining?
I don't have that exact number for you, but I can get that.
Okay.
It's a smaller number, because
We've been doing it. I'm just
we've
curious,
been doing it,
just curious how much is left.
Yeah, as you can see, this year, it's going to be some of our parking lots and then Continental Executive Park. So each year, last year, I think we spent around $90,000, did a couple other subdivisions. It's a smaller percentage. We're not close to being fully LED, but I'll get you those numbers
Okay.
later.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, then if there's no other comments or questions, could we have a roll call?
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Forster. Aye. Trustee Oppenheim.
Aye.
Trustee Schenk.
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka.
Aye.
Chairman Pro Tem Cook.
Aye. Motion carries. There is no unfinished additional business, correct? The next item is under new business. New business communication approval and passage of ordinance 2023-100, an ordinance granting a certificate of building and use conversion for a non-retail use Planet Fitness to be located at 413 Milwaukee Avenue, Unit 100.
Thank you. The certificate of building and use conversion request by Planet Fitness was in front of the committee of the whole September 19th. At that time, the committee had requested that staff provide some additional background information, research into the history of the program, the marketing efforts by the property owner, as well as an analysis of the retail market trends, just in general, to see if there were any opportunities for retail occupants at this location. So the purpose of this, the memo in this presentation, is to provide that background, give the board a chance to review this program in a little bit more depth related to this particular certificate of conversion request. So with that, just by way of background, the conversion program procedures were adopted in 2010. The purpose was to regulate the conversion of the existing retail sales establishments in the core retail area. So the concern at the time was that the economy had experienced a downturn just generally across the nation, and the village was concerned, because we do not have a property tax, that the sales tax revenue would be negatively impacted if on top of that we also lost retail space to non-retail users. So this program, the procedures for conversion and the review process were paired with the establishment of the core retail area overlay district. So there's a zoning code change to adopt the procedures, and then a zoning map amendment to adopt to actually establish an overlay district, which is centered mostly around the Town Line and Milwaukee Avenue intersection. Depicted, you can't really quite see the hash marks on this map, but it's the sort of pinky orange area around Milwaukee and Town Line. So the procedures established in the zoning code require a certificate of conversion under a variety of different circumstances. So the most common one would be if the aggregate square footage of a shopping center, when you look at the percentage of retail versus non-retail, anytime the non-retail cracks that 20% threshold, conversion certificate's required. Single occupant building of greater than 20,000 square feet, becoming less than 80% retail would also require it. There's some additional threshold for the mall itself. Just to the bottom point here on this slide is that if there's an increase in non-retail percentage at a location that already has a conversion certificate, that is the case here with Marketplace. This slide depicts the conversion certificates that have already been approved. There are only two that are actually currently operating. That would be the Bears Fit, which is the one on the far left, and then the Sky Zone Little Kickers, which was the earliest one back from 2017. The other three, the Heyday Spa is defunct. That business ultimately did not move into that location. The Urban Area Adventure Park is pending, and then Pickle Mall is also pending permit approval. So the current request would be the sixth, fifth if you take the Heyday Spa. Just a little bit of history on Marketplace. The original RPUD was from the late 80s. The piece that is known now as the Marketplace Shopping Center was approved in 1993. The center itself was designed and approved with the end users already a known quantity. So the center was built for Builders Square, Kmart, Pace Membership Warehouse, Circuit City, and then Max and Irma's was in an outlot. So the unit sizes were specific to the tenants who were already signed up at that time. The overall shopping center is just a little under 710,000 square feet. The piece that we're focusing on in the later slides here is about 191,000 square feet, which is the parcel that Mid-America owns. So this is the Mid-America parcel. It's sort of the core of the shopping center. It runs from Joann down to just north of Sam's Club. So the Joann and DSW units are currently occupied. The Bed Bath & Beyond unit was recently vacated. The Ashley Furniture store is where the Urban Air Indoor Adventure Park has been approved. And then the subject unit here, the one with the red star, is the Old Navy unit. One of the questions that the Committee of the Whole asked the staff to look into is the marketing efforts. So to do that, I spoke with representatives of Mid-America to try to assess some of the marketing challenges at this location. Their take on it was that this shopping center is at a competitive disadvantage. It's set back far from the street. The units tend to be large, whereas the trend is to right-size tenant spaces. The location also lacks corner access. So two of the examples that they cited, as you can see with the black arrows here, are the relocation of Old Navy and Ashley to units that are smaller and more accessible from the corner or from Milwaukee Avenue. The second piece, in speaking of Mid-America, was the recruitment efforts. They provided a detailed list of the retailers that they have been trying to recruit to this spot, along with the list of challenges that each potential retailer has cited as a reason that they wouldn't locate. Many of the retailers are already located in Vernon Hills or nearby, and others cited the size of the units. Or we're just generally not expanding in this region. Just by way of recap, the Planet Fitness proposal would increase the retail square footage from 32% to 42%. That is the reason that the new certificate needs to be issued in this case. In their proposal, as in support of their application, they had cited that this unit has been vacant since 2011, with the exception of the occasional Halloween store. They noted that the typical Planet Fitness of this size attracts 700 to 800 visitors per day and pulls in approximately $20,000 in retail sales from branded merchandise. The last item that we were asked to look at was the retail market itself, trying to assess the potential for other retailers to locate in this unit. We spoke with Melaniphy and Associates, who provided a memo that's in your packet. Their analysis was that the Planet Fitness gives the opportunity to provide a viable tenant to assist in the revitalization of the center. They noted that the subject unit hasn't generated sales tax in a decade, and that the approval of this certificate doesn't preclude a retail business from coming back to this unit in the future if Planet Fitness were to vacate it. They also noted the Planet Fitness would establish a shopping habit. Fitness users tend to be regular, so having people come attracts just activity to the center with the regular visits. So the last item I have, just a brief review of the standards for review for a certificate of conversion. So what the code states is that when the board is reviewing this request, the board makes findings that the conversion will not have a detrimental impact on the fiscal health of the village, either through the nature of the business itself, like with what Planet Fitness has suggested, that there'll be a large number of visitors attracted to other shops in the area, or through a payment in lieu of taxes, or the conversion will strengthen the viability of adjacent properties, or Without the conversion, the property cannot yield a reasonable return. And in any of those scenarios, the board would have to find that the conversion is the minimum amount of square footage necessary to accomplish the goals of the property owner. So at this point, with the action in front of you, there is an ordinance prepared that does approve the certificate of conversion. So the options available to the board tonight are approval of that certificate, either as written or with modifications, denial, or a deferred approval. And so the code allows, a deferred approval would be an approval, but allowing a year for the property owner to market that space. And that is all I have. But there are representatives here of Planet Fitness, Melanophy and Associates, and Mid-America, if you have any questions.
Trustee Oppenheim, you were the one raising the most concern. Would you like to hear Melanophy's?
Yeah, I would like to invite Mr. Melanophy to come up. Thank you. We appreciate you coming in.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Haven't been here in a little while.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
We kind of started our analysis for the village back in, I think, the late 80s or early 90s. So
Been a while.
we really followed the retail market here, and you really created a retail mecca, the most successful in Lake County. So obviously, the village board takes these very seriously about providing non-sales tax producing uses in some of these spaces. But when you look at all the square footage of retail that you have in the community, there are going to be times where there's going to be a tough space. And being vacant for 10 years, I came to the conclusion that one in the hand's worth two in the bush, and that Planet Fitness may not be here beyond their initial lease term. It could return to a sales tax producing use in the future. They generate customers. On my way up here, I went past Golf Mill, and Export Fitness was packed. So that does bring consumers to that shopping center and create cross-shopping opportunities. And so we looked at the retail vacancy rates, and when you look at 13 million square feet around the metropolitan area, there's a lot of box space that's vacant. And the e-commerce sales have been growing at 14 or 15%, where your brick and mortar stores have been only growing by about 5%. But you're a $1.9 billion market, and I feel that there are going to be instances where we're going to have non-sales tax producing uses occupy some of these, because you look at food, fun, fitness, and fashion, and that's really where it's at. And so we have to look at e-commerce resistant uses, and health clubs have been one of those that draw customers on a highly frequent basis, and they create cross-shopping opportunities. So that's how we came to that conclusion, and I think that leaving it vacant, that's certainly an alternative, but would we want to see that vacant for another 10 years, given the history of it? And so at least they would generate property taxes. They're probably getting property tax relief from the assessor, even though the village might not get a piece of that. But overall, it would help the property tax revenue stream by actually having an occupant in that space. I'm happy to answer any specific questions. I mean, you've read my memo. I just wanted to that introduction of how we kind of came to that conclusion.
Sure, and thank you for the memo as well. So I guess we just want to make sure that you were in agreement with the property owner's assessment that they've covered all the bases, spent the last 10 years looking for properties, and you don't feel as though there's stones left unturned.
We identified several retailers in that size range that are still around and are viable, and most of them already have locations either in Vernon Hills or they draw from this trade area. So that would be difficult. Some of the retailers might also have restrictions in their leases, like for a grocer. That Sam's Club, they may have restrictions in their lease that prohibit a grocer from going into the center. I have not seen the lease personally, but we look at some of those categories that have been active, and a lot of the categories that have left, like Ashley and Bed Bath & Beyond and Old Navy, I mean, in that apparel category, we're really heavy in apparel in Vernon Hills. And so we have to look at what other categories might make sense. And I was thinking back when Kmart was still here, and Home Depot Expo. I mean, my father forecast that Super K was gonna close like 10 years before it happened, and they actually did close all over the country. But it's, the retail market is constantly changing, and so we hope that there'll be a new retailer, a new concept. But for now, we need to get that space filled and productive, in my opinion, because it's like a cancer. It can start breeding additional commercial blight in that shopping center. And I think that, trying to get someone in there now, there's no guarantee they're gonna be here forever. So I think get the space occupied and help the other tenants in that shopping center.
We have there's potential outlet possibilities. Do you see similar commercial areas going through the same thing with that huge parking lot? Now you got 700 to 800 more visitors potentially coming per day. Is it worthwhile to start looking at building some outlets in that parking lot? Although they're off the main road, do you see properties doing that? Like converting to
Absolutely.
allow, okay, so now we're bringing them in with Planet Fitness, let's give them some health food options or something like that.
One of the issues that I discussed with staff is, when that center got built, there weren't any trees out in front. And so now, it's been 30 years, and all that landscaping that got put in and the trees are growing, and so the visibility and sightline issues have changed. And so, obviously, many of the other shopping centers in Vernon Hills have added outlots. They're really where the strongest rents are achieved. So I know like recent Starbucks deals could be $53 a foot. So developers would love to add more outlets in front of these centers where it works. So I think, the main thing is we want to generate tenants and get it occupied, and that will drive demand for additional outlet development. And really, that area has been one of the strongest, is the fast casual restaurants and fast food and coffee and donut. I mean, you look at, that's really where a lot of the growth has been recently in the retail market, is all the outlets and the corner locations.
Right, any other?
Is our ordinance written such that if Planet Fitness were to go out, would it revert back to the 32% or whatever it was, and then any other new non-retail tenant would have to come before us, or would they be grandfathered into that 40-something percent?
There is, I don't know exactly what the verbiage is, but there is a provision that if a non-retail use leaves, that the certificate does go away. When you've got one where there's a certificate and the new certificate, I would probably interpret that as going from 42 back to 32 if they were to vacate that space. But I don't think the ordinance is that specific.
And somebody else would need a new certificate approved.
Yes.
That's what I want to make sure, that
Yeah.
someone else with the same size wouldn't be able to come in automatically and say, well,
Yeah.
you've already approved up to 42, and now we're an approved use.
Okay.
Mr. Ferrolo, do you have any opinion on that?
I'm looking at the ordinance, the way it's drafted, and there's a successors and assigns, section 5. And it indicates that all the provisions of the ordinance and attachments hereto are binding on all successors and assigns of the petitioner and property owner. So I think if we're going to move to approve this, we probably want to add some language that this certificate of use conversion is exclusive to Planet Fitness and will expire with Planet Fitness vacating the center. I would ask that you add that language.
Okay. Yeah, that. Is everybody in agreement on that? So does that mean that we can, so are we going, would we approve it tonight?
Yeah, you have to. You have to make a decision tonight. There's a 30-day provision. So I would suggest a motion to approve with the amendment that I had just.
Subject to the addition of the language you just
Yes.
addressed?
That would be the motion.
Okay.
So made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any other comments or questions? And this is motion to approve with the addition of the language council just suggested.
That is that the certificate of use conversion is exclusive to Planet Fitness and would expire with Planet Fitness leaving the center.
Okay. All right, then any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Schenk.
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka.
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Aye.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Forster. Aye. Chairman Pro Tem Cook.
Aye, motion carries. Okay,
Good night.
other new business and communication, I see we've already got something on the screen.
Absolutely. Good evening. Hard
Motion to
believe
approve.
Midway through October, which provides us an opportunity to talk fall and fall events. So first slide up on the screen, Halloween, and talking about trick-or-treat hours, suggested trick-or-treat hours for Vernon Hills on Tuesday, October 31st, are 4 to 8 p.m. 4 to 8 p.m. As a reminder, safety tips are on the police department webpage, social media, and available on our cable programming, the A to Z safety tips. Additional patrols will be in Vernon Hills neighborhoods during this period. A recent drive through town shows many residents getting ready for the season by decorating for the occasion. So a lot of beautiful homes out there in Vernon Hills. Again, trick-or-treating hours for Halloween on Tuesday, October 31st will be 4 to 8 p.m. Covering a community service project, the Village of Vernon Hills and many of our neighboring communities are partnering with many local businesses and our veteran service organizations in effort to collect coats for the Midwest Veterans Closet. The Midwest Veterans Closet serves veterans and their families by providing essential items to include food and clothing to those in need. This initiative allows several entities to join together to collect new and gently used coats and seasonal outerwear that are distributed prior to winter. Donations are being accepted at participating businesses, the Village Hall, Vernon Hills Police Department, Municipal Golf Course, D128 office, and the Park District's Sullivan Center. Donations can be dropped off at any of these locations through November 15th. Another beautiful image of Vernon Hills. Fall is the season where we appreciate the colors. And picture here is the Village Hall. Beautiful picture of our Arbor Theater. But unfortunately, when those colors begin to fall to the ground, it creates a lot of work and the need to plan to dispose of leaves. This is your annual reminder that yard waste pickup season does have an end date, and the end date for 2023 is Tuesday, November 28. The last pickup in Vernon Hills will be Monday, November 27th for residents with Monday collection service, and Tuesday, November 28th for residents with Tuesday collection service. For persons who are not part of the seasonal subscription program, yard waste stickers are available for purchase at the Village Hall Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. for $2.30 each. And this past weekend, we learned that former Village President Barb Williams visited Vernon Hills. As a reminder, Barb served as a trustee from 1981 to 1989 and served as Village President from 1989 to 1993, and again as trustee from 2001 to 2017. It's my understanding, and it's evident from the picture there, that Barb visited Mayor Byrne this past weekend, where she received an update on all things Vernon Hills. So I'll close by wishing Barb safe travels home back to North Carolina, wishing everyone a safe Halloween, and don't forget to get your leaves picked up by November 27th. Happy fall.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other new business or communication? I have one item, and going along with the Veterans Coat Closet. Friday, November the 10th, the Hawthorne Middle School South will host their annual Veterans Breakfast from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And any veterans are welcome to come. You do have to sign up, because of it being a public school, you do have to sign up in advance so that they can, so that you can receive a visitor's authorization. And those visitors' authorizations, all you have to do is check in with the Hawthorne Middle South office sometime between October 23rd and November the 3rd and sign up for it, and they will, you have to bring along a driver's license, and once they've approved you, you'll be all set to come. The office is open from 8 to 2:30 Monday through Friday. So any veterans who'd like to attend that, it's always a good event, and it's 8 to 10 a.m. Friday, November the 10th. So that's for all veterans. So it's put on by the student council there, so the kids will be there to, help out. It's always a great event. Any other new business communication? Okay, then Are we going to go into closed session after?
We will not need a closed session
No closed
this evening,
session
so
tonight?
we can adjourn to the committee of the whole.
So is there a motion to adjourn the village board meeting and go to committee of the whole?
So made.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. To you, sir.
All right, I'd like to call to order the October 17th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Markwart.
Here?
Trustee Forster. Here. Trustee Schenk.
Here.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Here.
Trustee Takaoka.
Here.
Trustee Cook.
Here?
President Byrne.
Is there a motion to appoint a chairman pro tem for this evening's committee meeting?
I'd like to nominate trustee Cook to be chairman pro tem for the duration of the meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schenk.
Aye.
Trustee Forster. Aye. Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Takaoka.
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Aye.
Trustee Cook.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, first item is approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes of October the 3rd, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. Any comments, questions, corrections, or additions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Markwart.
Aye.
Trustee Forster. Aye. Trustee Takaoka.
Abstain.
Trustee Schenk.
Aye.
Trustee Oppenheim.
Aye.
Chairman Pro Tem Cook.
Aye. Motion carries. Second item, village workers' compensation, liability, property, auto, and other insurance renewals.
Yes, thank you. We have an insurance-themed committee of the whole meeting this evening. First up is our upcoming renewal on December 1 for our workers' compensation and liability insurance coverages. Here to present our renewal is Tom Collins with Alliant. Tom, I'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Village Manager. Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Collins, and I'm with Alliant Insurance Services, and thanks for taking the time to listen to the insurance renewal presentation. I think I heard somebody say, let's start the fun, so, and everybody loves insurance after 8 o'clock. It's good. I'd like to take just a quick moment to thank the village staff for their assistance throughout the year and leading up to the renewal period. There's a lot of information that has to be compiled and applications that have to be filled out, and they assist during the year at various issues regarding insurance. So I wanted to just take a moment and thank the staff for their assistance. I don't know, do I do this myself or? Oh, okay, thank you. The first slide I have is a summary of the insurance renewal and some of the steps that the staff and myself are involved in order to kind of set the expectation and the timeline. And it shows the kind of the communication and coordination we go through. It starts in August, and we go through a claim review where we coordinate a review with the insurance company adjusters as well as with staff and myself. And we go through the open claims to make sure that staff's aware of the most updated status on each claim. We also try to make sure the claims are in the best shape for the renewal in terms of, you know, if we can close a claim out, that would help, or reduce the reserves. So that's the kind of the first step. Then we are involved in a pre-renewal meeting where, again, we sit down with the staff and go through kind of the key dates and activities leading up to the quote process and this board meeting. At this pre-renewal meeting, I also discussed the marketplace. I have a chart I'm going to talk about in a few slides. And I'd just like to make the staff aware of kind of how the general insurance market is and talk about specific challenges where I think they need to be addressed. The next thing is your carrier, ICRMT, which is the Illinois County Risk Management Trust. They provide a renewal indication to try to give you guys some kind of expectation of what the premium's going to look like. And they gave us a preliminary indication of 10% or less, and the current proposal reflects a 9% increase, so just under that, that guideline. The last thing is part of the process, we talk about, does the staff want us to look at renewal options? And we're going to go through a few where we looked at taking some higher deductibles and look at how much money would be saved versus the possible risk involved. And also buying potentially less excess limit, and I'll go through that in a second. So that's kind of what leads up to where we're at today, some of the things we've gone through. Great. So just want to do a quick snapshot of the current master insurance program. Going from left to right, those are your primary liability coverages. The yellow boxes show the deductible for each coverage. The light blue shows the primary limit layer, and then the top where it says excess limit, those are the coverage towers above each liability coverage. To the right, total building contents value, that blue square. That's your property insurance coverage, which covers the buildings as well as the mobile equipment you have, as well as a couple of drones. We also have cyber liability coverage. Next to that is crime coverage, employee dishonesty for money and securities. We also have a workers' compensation policy that would cover the employees of the village if they were to be injured in their scope of employment. So that's kind of a high-level view of deductibles, limits, and the various coverages that you purchase. Next slide. So this is the chart that I shared with the staff at the beginning of the process to try to give them a general sense of the property casualty market. These are results from the second quarter of a CIAB survey. CIAB stands for Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers. And they sponsor a survey, they send it out, and to whoever responds, they catalog by line of coverage how their renewals went. Third quarter wasn't available at that time, so that's why it's the second quarter. But just to go through it briefly, on the left side is all the different coverages that they ask people to respond to. And then it shows, did the premiums go down? In the middle, there's the no change block. And then to the right, there's the various percentages of increase. And as you can see there, a lot of the marketplace is in the increase category, specifically on commercial property, as well as on the umbrella. This is not a public entity specific survey, so like law enforcement, for example, is not on here. But I think this gives a good kind of general overview of where the market is by various coverage lines. And again, we'd like to share that with them so they have an expectation of what's going on in the marketplace.
So this is just a marketplace assessment of different policies?
Yeah. So what this CIAB does is they send out surveys to their members, and the members can be anything manufacturer, retailer. They just ask them to respond, and so that every quarter they do this, and you can see kind of what the general marketplace is by specific lines of coverage. Next slide, please. So this is the premium summary of last year, or the current policy versus a couple of the options we received. Option one at the top is basically the deductible structure as we just went through on the previous slide. A couple of blocks to the right is option two, where we ask for some higher deductibles to see if there's any cost savings. So we go through this comparison, again, by package lines of coverage, and you can see the results there. The 9% overall increase, which is shown by the total estimated cost, that's really driven heavily by the excess liability that you buy at $15 million. Part of that's driven by you're buying $15 million, but the other part is, in public entity, is the costs of law enforcement liability, as well as auto liability that's driving those costs. And that is, level of increase is not out of what I've seen on other public entity renewals. It's just a tough situation, really, with the law enforcement. And you guys have obviously seen what's gone on in the last few years and the challenges there. The other premium that I just want to point out is the workers' compensation, which is up about 6%. That's largely driven due to the payrolls. So on the left, if you go down, you'll see the exposure changes. What we just tried to do is highlight the various main kind of components of exposures that the carriers look at. And you had a little uptick in payroll there, and that drives the workers' comp costs. We'll talk about the loss trends in another slide, but so it's 9% overall at structure as expiring. If you go to the option 2, you get about a $11,000 savings for taking significantly higher deductibles. I personally don't think that's a good risk-reward trade-off, but in discussing options with the staff, that's something they wanted to just take a look at and see what kind of savings would be involved. One item there on the notes at the bottom, number 3, excess liability. So as I mentioned, your current structure has $15 million in excess limits above your primary coverages. If you wanted to reduce that to $10 million, there would be a savings of about $33,000. 1.5. Yeah, so to drop it $5 million, you get a $33,000 savings. Most of the public entity clients that I have in your population size carry about somewhere between 10 to 15. So you really would have to think about before you wanted to reduce that. You've had fairly good claims history from a severity standpoint, but it's one of those things, you know, the minute you drop it, you get the bad claim. And the way claims are being valued nowadays, you know, $10 to $50 million claims between law enforcement and auto liability certainly happens. So,
Are you saying claims are up, not in quantity, but value?
yeah, the value of claims, if you look at, you know, over the past trends, not just for, I'm talking Vernon Hills, but generally in the marketplace, a lot of it's driven by legal jurisdictions. You know, what an auto claim would cost here versus Cook County, you know, that would have an impact.
Do
But
they,
yeah,
do they use like formulas or something like that to kind of figure out based on their statutes then, or
in terms of,
the claim that's being
yeah,
paid out?
right. I mean, you can, they will collect all sorts of data to show you kind of certain industries, to show you like an average auto claim 5 years ago is this, now it's that, general liability and so forth. And again, a lot of it's about litigation and size of some of the awards. There's no rationale to it, so. Next slide, please. So there's 3 other coverages that we purchase, the ancillary coverages. The staff about a year or so ago asked that we, they had different expiration dates. They asked that we get the expiration dates aligned with 12/1, which is the expiration date of your master program that we just talked about. There's the fiduciary policy for the police pension fund. There's a volunteers accident policy and a storage tank liability policy that covers the 5 above ground tanks and 3 underground storage tanks. And you can see there that if you look at the various limits and deductibles, there's been no change and minimal changes on the premium. So we just wanted to include those in this year's presentation because they're now on your same effective date. Does anybody have
I got a couple questions.
Sure.
So is ICMRT the only market for this type of insurance? For
No.
public?
No, we have, so what happened is they give us an indication.
Yeah.
And if you decide to go to market, they don't feel like they're bound by that indication. It's like, we've given you this indication, it's your chance.
So you don't ever market this?
Well, no, it was marketed 2 years ago. So we do it every few years. So it has been marketed before in the last few years.
So the only reason why you don't really market is if you get an indication from ICMRT and you don't, they won't commit to that indication?
If you're going to take it to market, they'll basically.
So you have to inform them if you're taking them to taking it to market?
Correct, yeah, because they're a pool, so what you have to
No, I
do is
understand,
actually, you have to fill out a document saying that we're taking this to market. You have to inform them. That's part of their
All
their
right, so
regulations.
what other municipalities you're the broker of record, I'm assuming, right?
Correct,
Alliant, which you're a Mesero company, correct?
correct.
So what other jurisdictions do you insure?
I insure,
Or that you
I'm only in Illinois, so we do.
fine. What other
Cook-
towns?
Other towns. I do the Village of Niles, I do the Village of Lansing, did the Village of Maywood. You kind of caught me off guard. I'm thinking Schiller Park. Those are a few of them.
Okay, and then law enforcement liability, based upon what is that our biggest exposure here? For the excess?
Biggest, yes. And that's not
Is
just.
that any jurisdiction?
Yeah, correct. I mean, law enforcement, because of what's happened. Now, if you guys were in Cook County, that 15 million would be more expensive.
So what would incline you to market our risk?
So,
Say every few years, but that's sort
Yeah.
of vague to me.
yeah, I mean, that's a fairly common marketing, a lot of, most.
Well, what
most-
would incline you? I mean, do you guys do any research into what
Yeah.
other markets does this here in Illinois?
We looked at, a few years ago, we looked at Gladfelters, Travelers, we looked at AIG. We went through about 6 or 7 different carriers.
Okay.
And I mean, let me just address something. Since they give you that hedge of if you go out to market, this could be higher theoretically, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be. I mean, we have to assess the market because of what we do every day. So when I tell them under 10% or 1 to 9% in this marketplace is a good one, I mean, I would recommend that. Now, next year, it might be something different, but right now, in the property casualty market for public entities, a high single-digit premium increase is a pretty good result.
Right, but we're not Lansing, Schiller Park, Maywood, Niles versus Vernon Hills. It's like anything else. Take loss history and all
sure.
that. So I'm not necessarily. I understand the insurance part. I don't understand why. When was the last time this risk was marketed?
I believe it was 2
What
years
year?
ago.
You believe? It was
20 or
2021?
21. Sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I believe it's 2021. And your staff asked us to look at a number of carriers, and we did so.
Oh, you did? Okay.
It was 2021.
Yeah,
There was really nothing out there that was.
Yeah, we looked at, I think it was IPRF, ICMA, IRMA. None were competitive at that time.
I'm just curious.
No, I understand. I mean, believe me, I'm a person who has to take a
Well,
message of
it's
increases.
easy to,
Sure, no,
Right.
understood.
Someone says could blanket say 1 to 9%, but that's great because I look at the risk. Because Niles is not, versus Lansing, Maywood, Schiller Park, and, I would even look at, I don't know what their issue.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're in this
city
premium
has more
range.
of an issue than here.
Right, right.
Well, I would advocate that this risk gets marketed more than what, just because.
Okay.
And because, like anything else, you don't want, I know a lot of people in the insurance business. I happen to, understand it. And, I don't want to say I want to have someone, hey, why don't you, what does a risk look like this? You know what I mean? You're broker of record. I'm not looking to
Right.
strip you of that. But at the same time, I would advocate this being looked at.
Understood.
Does anyone disagree with me on this?
The one thing I would say, since you
I don't understand this part of the bit, necessarily your specialty, but, I would like to see it marketed and looked into.
Yeah, one of the drawbacks I found, if you market something every year, people tend, okay. Yes, we can.
You were kind of thinking every few years, usually it's like, yes, we marketed in 2021, and think maybe we'll look at it next year.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was 20 or 2021. I'm just, yep.
So are you asking we market it this year or next
No,
year?
not this year. It's too
Next
late
year?
now.
Okay,
I mean, if it's 21, maybe next year.
24, 3-year, yeah.
Every couple of years, I think it should be looked at. And
Okay.
you're right. Might as well,
Right, yeah, no, that's.
might as well let you do something. No offense, but you know what I'm saying, right? I mean,
No,
that's how business is taken away in this business.
Right.
If someone's willing to say, hey, we'll market your risk, I'm not.
Yep. No, I mean, it's not like it hasn't been out in 10 years or anything. It's 3 years or whatever, so. Yep. Next slide, please. So this was something we mentioned earlier. It's something we keep a close eye on in terms of the work comp and incurred trends as well as the premium loss rate. So the blue graphs, and the data is up at the top, but the blue graphs show how the incurred losses have trended. And incurred means paid plus reserve. So it's how much you've paid out plus in insurance, there's estimates for future payouts, which are called reserves. And if you add that together, it's called the incurred amount. So you can see how it's trended over the last 5 or so years. Then you have the premium rates, which is how much premium you paid per $100 of payroll. So you see that your premium rate has actually been trending down over the last 3 years, and I believe at this renewal, it'll be closer to $4.17 per 100. So,
Kind of like gasoline, it goes up much faster than it comes down, right?
right?
Yeah.
No, that is true. But I would say there's good progress there. You had a little pop in 2021, but I know it's something the staff keeps a close eye on with the claims adjuster and the claims reviews and some of the other training that we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, next slide, please. So one of the things I'd just like to highlight is, in addition to paying just for premiums, you're getting loss control services, which is people coming out to try to give you the training that's needed or requested in various departments, as well as try to discuss trying to prevent future claims. That first bullet point, training session was held in April with the village department supervisors. We call it a Workers' Comp 101 course. And what we're trying to do there is do the best practices in terms of claims reporting and communication to your supervisors. The staff we had talked about this, and they thought it would be a good idea, given it seems like since COVID there was some turnover in staff, and this is kind of a good introductory training session so that people are aware of what workers' comp is and how to handle claims as they come in and how to communicate with their employees and how to take good reports when claims happen, because we're trying to drive down not only the premium cost but the amount of claims you're having. Second bullet point, so a Vernon Hills police officer attended a 2-day course on emergency vehicle operations. There was a Public Works, I believe, had asked about, was there any audiogram testing available? And so that was provided. We also worked with them on OSHA recordable status of claims. So there's certain workers' comp claims when they happen where they have to be reported to OSHA. And so we assist in that effort. There was some online training provided for an annual sexual harassment training requirement for Public Works. That was provided. There was a transition to an online training platform, neo.gov, that we facilitated. And then ICMT was involved in the reimbursement of about $2,800 for a vendor that assists with the workers' comp program called Ready Rebounds. So we were able to get some kind of a bonus reimbursement for the village on that training. So again, what we're trying to say is the money you're paying for is going for more than just premium. There's services as well that are trying to drive down the costs as well as satisfy any training requirements that the departments have. And that is my last slide. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions from the board?
And we'll be happy, to make the commitment that we'll market it next year.
So when you market it, I'm not as versed as Craig is, or Trustee Takaoka is. You're basically looking then for different, what is the benefit of going to market every 2 years versus a higher or a lower frequency?
Again, I would say the regular frequency is about 3 or 4 years. The benefit is you're checking the marketplace to see that you have the best deal. And sometimes that's voluntary, sometimes, on the other hand, you might be having a problem with your carrier. A certain claim might not be getting paid, or you think they're too expensive. And so you market it to get a better cost, or to check your cost.
So when you market it, and you mentioned Niles, Lansing, what was it, Schiller Park, Maywood. So as the broker, and you're familiar with some of these companies, are you tend to kind of find the same companies with all those jurisdictions, or are they all spread over the board? Because every township has different risks
Right.
or different claims. Does that then play a role into the work that you need to do?
The carrier, I mean, carriers either do public entity or they don't. So there's, whatever the number is of carriers that can do parts of it. The biggest change over the last few years is what's going on in Cook County, people not doing it. But in terms of public entities, they buy auto, they buy law enforcement. I mean, everything that you buy is purchased by every other public entity that I work with, whatever the jurisdiction is. It's just, the Cook County jurisdiction is a tougher one to find carriers to write in.
How much work is involved and time frame involved to go to market and find, but may or may not find something better?
Well, basically,
Like, how do you determine, like, 3 to 4 years, how do you determine that, hey, maybe 2 years, the work involved, the savings involved, I mean, you work for us, how do you determine?
It's again, there's a good practice of doing it every 3 to 4 years. I mean, whatever, every public entity has a different philosophy, but to check it every few years because the markets can change. That's one thing. In terms of the work for me, it's once I get the applications and the information, I send things out. Is it more work? Yes. Is it, I mean, that's what we do, as trustees said. That's part of what we do. But we don't do it every year on public entity accounts or any other account.
What percentage of your clients are ICMRT?
I would probably say 25 to 30%. They're writing a lot of business in Illinois. They're an Illinois-only company. They're financially sound, and they can do all the coverages in one package. That commercial property number that I gave you, a 2.7% increase, that's a phenomenal number if you know anything about the property market and what's going on there. So, if they wouldn't be competitive, we wouldn't be dealing with them.
Well, I think, unless maybe it was the screen before, the commercial property was the biggest hit.
Yep.
Increase is what you said, so,
Right.
yeah. And you make, the commission on the broker makes it from the insurance company or from the percent of the premium?
Yeah, so the carriers pay us commissions, and that's usually between 7 to 15%, depending on the size of the risk. And
7 to 15% of
Yeah.
the premium?
correct.
And what's our premium here that we're looking at, 904, 498?
915.
What was I looking at?
Renewal.
Oh, I was looking at option 2, option 1, yeah, which, you're right, 950.
And I think if you knew anybody in insurance, that range of commission's pretty standard. That's not a outlier.
Any other comments or questions from the board? You don't need any action from us tonight on anything, or?
No, our next step would be what we do every year. We bring back an ordinance which binds the coverage on behalf of the village. Our policy year begins on December 1st, so we have 2 more board meetings. So that'll be either at the November 7th or the 21st meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is employee health insurance renewal.
Okay, before I turn it over to Kristen and Tom, I'll just give a quick introduction. We'll be presenting this evening our village employee health insurance renewal. Our policy year begins on December 1st, and just kind of as a high level, our health insurance program is a main component of the village's benefits package that we offer to our employees. This is used not only to offer a wellness program for our staff, but also as a major tool in helping to recruit and retain our workforce in what is now really a very competitive labor market. However, we understand that this comes at a cost. Our current percentage of health insurance costs of our overall expenditures is about 6.5%, so it is pretty substantial. And so with that, we work every year to try and do everything that we can to hold the line on those costs. A recent example of that would be last year we worked through our collective bargaining process to eliminate the zero deductible PPO plan. That effort saved about $100,000 baseline every year in our health insurance program for the village going forward. We have a few other options that we're going to be presenting later this evening for your consideration. And then, lastly, just wanted to remind the board that there are several factors that are outside of our direct control that do go into the premium cost that we receive. For example, we have quite a high number of retirees that are on our plan. We're required to provide health insurance to our retirees by law, but it's about over 30, and we're about 100 full-time employees. So about 30% of our covered members are retirees. Although they pay the direct premium, their losses impact our loss ratio, which has an impact on our premiums. Other examples, like I mentioned earlier, are collective bargaining. The majority of our village employees are in one of two collective bargaining units, which are subject to interest arbitration, which includes compensation and health insurance benefits. Other things that we've been noticing over the years are changes to the health insurance market. There's been consolidation of health insurance carriers, which has led to less options for us to go to market, and then also just rising health insurance cost prices nationally. So just wanted to remind the board of those considerations, and unfortunately, a lot of those are outside of our direct control, but we are doing the best we can within our control to hold the line on those costs. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kristen. She'll review our health insurance program and renewal, and Director Lyons will also review the projected budget impacts for this fiscal year and next fiscal year.
Good evening, Village President, Board of Trustees. Thank you for this opportunity to present the annual employee health insurance renewal. I'll start with a recap of the village's current employee benefits program, which includes a PPO and HMO medical plan and a DPPO dental plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then vision and basic life insurance and accidental death and dismemberment through Dearborn National, which is a subsidiary of Blue Cross Blue Shield. A quick reminder, the village's employee cost-sharing program covers 80% of the medical premium, 75% of the dental premium, 100% for vision, and currently 99% of the life insurance premium, which we'll discuss further shortly. As a note, the retirees pay 100%. So currently, like I mentioned, the village offers a traditional PPO and HMO plan. These plans, specifically the PPO plan, generally have much higher premiums with lower out-of-pocket expenses. In comparing our current plans, or plan types with alternative plans, village staff was able to determine that there are a lot of premium dollars that are left on the table for both the village and its employees and retirees. And providing alternative plans, such as a health savings account, will allow policyholders to play a larger role in managing and controlling their healthcare expenses. So as Kevin mentioned, there are a number of internal and external factors that impact the group health insurance premium. And the internal factors include the number of employees, the average age of the employees and dependents, the geographical location of the organization, claims history, also known as loss ratio, the ongoing large claims, gender makeup, and the number of retirees on our plan. The external factors, the health insurance market, the competitive labor market, the Illinois health continuation law, interest arbitration, meaning that our benefits program is subject to collective bargaining, and the limited number of carriers that are offering fully insured plans, which right now is limited to Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Healthcare. So it's important to note that under the Illinois Pension Code, the village is required to provide healthcare continuation to their retirees. Anybody who is eligible to collect a pension at the time of retirement. They don't have to start collecting it, they just have to be eligible to collect it at the time of retirement.
Aetna does not do our type of insurance? Because I know they've moved in with the state.
Yeah, so there is, we'll get to the quoting results in a moment, and we'll see exactly why Aetna didn't quote.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I mentioned the claims history or loss ratio is one of the factors that goes into determine the premium. For the last 12 months, we ran 120.5%. So what that means is Blue Cross Blue Shield paid 20.5% more out in claims that they received in premium, which resulted in about a $500,000 loss to the carrier. Because of this, we received an initial quote of around 18% increase, which later was dropped down to 12.77%.
Well, can you repeat that, Kristen? What was the initial? They got dropped down to 12.7?
Initially, it was a little over 18% they came back with, and that was later dropped down to 12.77%.
What created the drop? Just
Our broker negotiated with the carrier. We weren't necessarily, this was before we really were presented with the final renewal.
Okay.
So they usually, with the health insurance carriers, it is kind of a back and forth
That's like the lay of the land
thing,
for that?
yeah.
So the preliminary was 18%, and then it was, hey, how can you do better? And it came back at 12.7.
So it's important to note that there is an opportunity for ancillary discounts by electing dental and vision along with the medical renewal, and we'll get into that in a moment as well. So as I mentioned, the marketing analysis from First Benefit Marketing, our agent's Tom Duran, he went out to market, and unfortunately, all of the carriers had declined to quote. And it's either because they don't cover retirees, so Aetna, that is the problem that we have.
I find that surprising because the state of Illinois is using them for retirees.
That's
TRS has now moved to, this Aetna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so either they don't, the carriers don't provide coverage to retirees, or they don't provide coverage to governmental agencies, or they were simply uncompetitive.
Yeah, you're probably right. It probably has to do with the fact that that's a much bigger client, so.
All right. So the village currently has 121 policyholders on the medical plan, which includes 97 active employees and 24 retirees. So you can see we do have a large retiree population. I mentioned earlier the 12.77% renewal. The ancillary discounts that we would be eligible for would be an additional 1% off the medical rates by electing the dental as well, and an additional 0.5% by electing the vision. So the combined ancillary discount would be 1.5%, which would reduce the medical premium to an overall 11.27 increase. Now, you will notice that the village increase is reflecting 12.13%, and I'd like to briefly explain why. Under the current Public Safety Employer Benefits Act, or PSEBA, the PSEBA recipient is currently responsible for any cost differential if they elect a plan that is greater than their PSEBA-based plan. Effective January 1 of 2024, the PSEBA law allows the PSEBA recipient now to elect any health plan, no matter what the premium is, without being assessed the cost differential. So that cost would transfer over to the village, and we would now be responsible for 100% as of January 1. I am going to pass the mic to Finance Director Lyons to discuss budget impact.
Thank you. So the fiscal '24 budget impact on this renewal, again, the coverage period doesn't align exactly with the fiscal period, so we're looking at 5 months in fiscal '24 here, and we had initially assumed 7.5% increase on those 5 months. So this increase above that will generate about $85,000 overage, projected overage, assuming everyone stays on the same plan.
Okay, if you recall from last year's renewal, the village was able to negotiate the removal of the $0 deductible PPO plan, saving the village more than $100,000 annually. This year, in order to further control cost, village staff explored various plan types in an effort to save on the premium for both the village and the employees. With a traditional PPO plan, the premium that's paid by both the employee and the employer is a guaranteed expense. Once you pay that, you're never going to see those premiums again. Alternatively, village staff realized that an opportunity for premium savings exists by adding a high deductible health plan with a health savings account or HSA component. Again, we expect that if we see the transition to the HSA plan, the village and employees could stand to save a substantial amount of money. So what is a high deductible health plan with an HSA component? Well, a high deductible health plan typically has much lower premiums than a traditional PPO plan. Also, preventative care is covered at 100% even before the deductible is met. In addition, the provider network is the same as Blue Cross's Blue Shield, their largest national PPO provider network. Also, the network discount applies to all in-network claims, meaning that policyholders receive the same negotiated in-network discounts for their claims as they would see under PPO or HMO. No co-pays exist under a high deductible health plan. Rather, a policyholder pays out of pocket until their deductible is met. One of the best features about a high deductible health plan is that employees have the ability to open up a health savings account to help pay for future out-of-pocket expenses with tax deductible contributions. Under the HSA, contributions never expire, unlike with a flexible spending account who has a use it or lose it clause. In order for employees to build their health savings account dollars, they're encouraged to contribute funds with their pre-tax payroll dollars. Those contributions can earn interest and also be invested. So what are the premium savings that we could stand to see? So as you can see, there's a tremendous opportunity here, but that's only if we can get the members to switch from their current PPO plan over to the HSA plan. So in order to incentivize employees to elect the HSA plan, the village will be, the cost share of the HSA will be 90-10 as opposed to the 80-20 that is for the other medical plans. In addition, the village will contribute an annual amount on a semi-monthly basis to the HSA account based on the coverage category, and that's to help employees with their out-of-pocket expenses.
So when you look at the savings, the HSA versus PPO, do you account for the contribution, the $300 a month example for the single, into that number too? Or does that go against it?
Yeah, that $300 is just an annual contribution under the single. These are annual contributions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
the answer is yes.
Okay, forgive me, I thought it was a monthly contribution. Oh.
So am I correct on the HSA account? It's additional money that goes, or I shouldn't say additional, money that goes into a pool to save on actually taxes for an individual. Is that correct?
HSA contributions are taken out of payroll on a before-tax basis.
We have 24 retirees, is that correct?
Correct.
Am I correct, though, if you are retired, you're probably taking your Social Security, and are you not allowed to take the HSA?
Contributions into the HSA would be tax deductible, and that would be up to the retiree when they're filing their taxes.
Okay, because I thought of something from last year out of it, that they weren't allowed to do it because they were taking Social Security.
I'm not familiar with that, but I could.
Okay, I could be wrong on it, I'm just questioning.
I can look at that.
Just to be clear, the HSA plan option would be an option. So a retiree could still stay on the PPO if for whatever reason they weren't eligible. They still have that choice.
Correct, I know it's a volunteer, but I thought that even trying to say, hey, I want to do it because you're taking your Social Security, they called it double dipping routine, so I don't know. Just questioning it.
That's a good question. I'll look into it. I'm not familiar with that.
There may be less of a benefit to those on Social Security as they're not getting payroll tax deductions tax-free.
Okay.
And do we require Medicare at 65 for our retirees, or are they still under our regular policy?
So currently, our retirees are allowed to stay on even when they become Medicare eligible, and the plans turn into a supplement plan, and they have a reduced premium. If a retiree doesn't want to elect Medicare and wants to stay on the program, they can do that as well.
Would we be paying the Medicare premium then if they switch to that?
We don't pay the premiums for retirees at all.
Nothing, okay, that's right.
Unless
They pay for their
the
whole-
PSEBA, yeah, unless they are under PSEBA or have a separation contract
Standard, we're
outlining.
just giving them the option to take.
That's correct. So they're still going to have the option of the HMO, the PPO, and now the HSA, but it may just not be desirable to the retirees.
Because that's actually what the Aetna with the state was. It was a supplement to the Medicare.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to dental insurance, the village currently has 132 policyholders on the dental plan, 97 active employees, 34 COBRA, and one, I'm sorry. Did I? And that's, I'm sorry, the COBRA and PSEBA should be switched. We have 4 PSEBA recipients and 34 retiree and COBRA participants. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm. Yeah, okay. Based on market trends, the dental renewal includes a 10% overall increase. And again, it's important to note that with the renewal of medical and dental, the village will receive the 1% ancillary discount on the medical premiums. The 10% overall increase on the dental plan amounts to roughly $12,000 increase in the village's dental expenses for an annual expense of around $130,000. And then again, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, same coverage period, so again, 5 months out of this year for this premium, additional $1,000 for the whole year, but $12,000 overage is projected on the fiscal '24 budget.
All right, vision insurance. The great guarantee on the vision insurance premium has been extended another year, resulting in no change. Vision amounts to a roughly $16,000 expense to the village annually. It's important to note that with the renewal of vision, along with medical and dental, the village receive an additional 0.5% ancillary discount on the medical premiums. And then finally, the life insurance and accidental death and dismemberment. Currently, the village provides a life insurance policy at 3 times an employee's salary up to a maximum of $250,000 and covers 99% of the premium, with the employees currently paying the remaining 1%. After review, it was determined that the 1% annual premium that's paid by employees based on their salary amounts to less than $400 annually to the village. So with the administrative costs for managing this, it far outweighs the $400. And as of December 1st, the village would like to pay the full 100% of the premium.
This is the first time we're doing that? Probably?
Correct. Yep, and doing the math for this past year was $390 that the village took from employees, and administratively, it's just a lot more, work
Go back
to.
and forth to get their benefit, yeah, I know.
Good.
All right. Like Vision, the rate guarantee on the life insurance was extended for another year, resulting in no change to the premium, which is just under $41,000 annually. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and open it up for questions.
You'd have to be able to document enough hours to be qualified as a full-time employee.
Full-time employee.
Yeah. Other comments or questions from the board? Excellent presentation, thank you. This was
Thank you.
much easier to understand going through this.
It's always confusing, but this is good.
Yeah. Anybody at all? Any other comments,
Yeah,
questions?
Kristen, so on, I don't know what page, it's titled Current versus Projected Renewal Premium. And you got the 121 there. So, a couple things. If I recall, we don't break up their premiums by age groups. We kind of take an average of everyone. So when you have higher number of retirees, it kind of will increase everyone's premium, correct?
Exactly. So the
You're not
group
gonna-
takes a snapshot of
Yeah.
all of the demographics, and because we have such a large number of retirees on the plan,
Yeah.
it definitely does affect our premium.
How, and over the last 5 years, well, actually, the last 3 years, what would you say the number of retirees went from what to what? Do we know? Has it been stable? I mean, has it been?
We have had a substantial amount of retirees in the past
Right.
several years.
Yeah.
Many of them have taken other jobs and actually come off of our insurance. Others have stayed on our insurance as single retiree coverage only, because once a retiree drops the coverage, they can never get back on. So they'll maintain another program through their employer, their spouse's employer, but they want to keep our coverage, so they'll stay on, so that they don't risk not being able to come back on.
So how does Medicare then, like, so if a retiree, what's Medicare, 65?
Yep.
65. So when they hit 65, do you see them going to Medicare and picking us up as like a gap insurance, or do they just stay with us because it's a better, what do you see?
Most of the retirees, once they turn 65 and take Medicare, they come off of our plan,
And then they're-
because it is, even though it is a Medicare supplement, it's still several $100s per person. And so we do see a lot of them come off. We do have a handful of retirees over 65 who are on the Medicare supplement plan. And I'm told from a lot of the retirees that a lot of that is because the prescription costs
Right,
are so substantial that
Medicare.
by keeping the Village plan, they have that prescription coverage.
So the supplement is just kind of covering the Medicare prescriptions and deductible then? Is that how that
Yeah.
works? And then my last question, so the current versus projected renewal premium, I don't know, maybe 4 pages back.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that one. So I remember this came up, I believe, last year. So our share that we're paying is $2,051,000, correct? According, right? And the employee's share, which varies based, like medical's 20, dental's 25, vision, we pay 100, right? Accident and life and insurance, we
This
pay
is
100.
just the medical.
Oh, this is just the medical.
Yep.
So retiree, employee in the Village, am I doing my math wrong here? Is that then, it's like 40% of, wouldn't it be more closer to 20% of the premium? We pay 80%, and they pay
We-
20%, right?
For employees. Retirees are responsible for 100% of the premium.
Thank you. I remember you said that now. It's late. Last year, I felt like we had a real low increase. Is that right?
We actually went down.
We did pretty well last year, right?
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
eliminated that $0 deductible
Right.
plan.
Well, right,
So
right.
it forced everybody onto a plan with a lower premium.
That max out of pocket, man, that's still a great 1,500 for max out of pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good number.
Good plan. Yeah, 1,500.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, do you need anything from us?
No, if there's consensus, the open enrollment is a little more sensitive than the other policy we just talked about, so we'll be bringing this back at the November 7th meeting for board approval, which will allow Kristen enough time to get everything up and ready by December 1. And just so the board's aware, Kristen is an army of one that enrolls all 100-plus members, so she does a really good job, and we appreciate everything she's done this year in getting this renewal together and also helping all of our employees throughout the year with all of their health insurance enrollment and challenges.
She does a very good job, and thank you for helping me with things, so.
Yeah, that can be a minefield, trying to work through insurance. Trust me, I know my wife was in that business for a lot of years, so it can be very difficult.
Sure is.
Anything else? Okay, and since there's no closed session, then is there a motion to adjourn and go home for the evening?
So made.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are done for the evening.